Hello and welcome to Digital Transformation for Humans with your host, Emi. In this podcast, we delve into how technology intersects with leadership, innovation, and most importantly, the human spirit. Each episode features visionary leaders who understand that at the heart of success is the human touch, nurturing a winning mindset, fostering emotional intelligence, and building resilient teams. Today, we'll talk about trends and innovations around data visualization for business growth. Harold Dickenson from Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, is our fantastic guest today. Welcome, Harold.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
It's a great pleasure to have you. Let's start the conversation and transform not just our technologies, but our ways of thinking and leading. Interested in connecting or collaborating? Find more in the description and subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes. So, Harold, to start with, please, could you tell a few words about yourself, about your background? It is really impressive, but our listeners and viewers would like to know who you are and everything about your achievements and experience.
Sure. So I started off my career many years ago. I'm actually from Antigua in the Caribbean. So after high school, I was very big on technology. I was actually a programmer at that age. And I always enjoyed structuring data. It was all about structuring data and having data work and do great things for me. After high school, I wanted to explore more what my likes were, and I was also quite creative. So this led me to also get involved with graphic design, and I had this struggle inside me where I wanted to be creative but also a bit analytical. How there was no field at that time for this particular mindset. UX wasn't even thought about at this point, and so I decided, okay, you know what? I really enjoy being creative. Let me go down the creative route of things. Let me become a designer. And I started my job in a newspaper where I learned the ropes and I grew the ranks. And eventually I went to university and I started studying graphic design, new media, where the approach was looking at upcoming technology and how we can work this technology into the conversation. So it was always about communicating and using the technology to communicate. Now, I graduated and I kind of got back into traditional graphic design and I wasn't very happy. So I eventually got a job here in Dubai where I was allowed to be a multimedia specialist and extend on my capabilities. I was in video, I was in web design. So it was a great position to be in. And then in about 2014, I first encountered something called BIM, building information modeling. And I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool, because now here's all that analytical side of me and data rich information, me visual outputs. I was like, well, what is this? I need to understand it more. And as I was working at a construction company at the time, ACOM, I started delving into what BIM is, how can it be used, and that kind of spurred me down into the immersive technology part. Like, okay, we have this information. How can we portray this information? How do we make it interesting for not the engineer, but the person who is receiving it? And that's usually the gap where you have two different skill sets, one that's indoctrinated and one who's fresh. I myself am not an engineer, so I do not understand the terminologies of an engineer at that time, but I may need to convey it. So how can we turn that interaction into something magical and easy to comprehend? So first started with augmented reality and then virtual reality, and we kept looking at the way we can keep pushing these boundaries. And as the technology matured, we also realized workflow efficiencies by adopting a BIM workflow in the company I was at. They started pushing to a BIM first workflow because they understood the efficiencies and the benefits of having that workflow. Now, fast forward on about 10 years later, I'm now running my own company where I focus on digital transformation. And my digital transformation is how do we continue that conversation and also create efficiencies within the company. So a lot of companies go about the digital transformation without the key ingredients. They have no goals, they have no KPIs, they go technology first, which is usually the worst way to go about anything. Usually I get contact and says, oh, we need to have something as a virtual reality, or in the height of 2 years ago, we wanted a metaverse. Everyone wanted a metaverse. And I kept pulling back and said, okay, first of all, what is a metaverse to you? And, we had that conversations, because I need to understand, one, what did they want it for? Like, who is the intended audience? Is it an internal workflow? Is it communicating externally to a stakeholder? Is it a sales tool? There are all these different ways that the technology can be used. So it was really understanding what people wanted that kind of pushed me further down this path, because I realized that there was so much misinformation and so much confusion around the technology. Even today, I get people who will call augmented reality a virtual reality, or 360 video a metaverse, and it's like, no, we really need to understand what the technology is. So this continually pushed me along my way to find a way to help companies understand themselves and bring the tools in place for them to grow internally and externally. Because for me, the end result is building efficiencies and improving communications. It's always about the story. So that's a bit of my background. This is why I'm here today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
Anytime.
And I recognize that pattern. Technology comes first, and oftentimes, even the terms around the technology are mixed up and leaders get confused, but still they do their best to push for the latest, for the coolest, for the hottest. And then the human factor, the company goals, and many things which are in fact crucial are staying behind. And unfortunately, it shows up in the. I saw it again and again, and you too, and other leaders are just witnessing the same, which means that this conversation is still very timely, and probably even more timely today when technologies are growing and unfolding at the
Yes.
speed of light. So, my question now, speaking about the latest trends and everything around it, what are the latest trends in visualizing big data for business growth? What can you see from your side?
Well, if I didn't say AI and generative AI, I'd be completely lying, because um, so many companies have now brought science fiction, because AI was always science fiction. Like, we never thought in our lifetime we'd be able to have these full-on conversations like we witnessed just last week with ChatGPT 4.0. So we're now seeing the technology can gather large amounts of information and then share it back with us in ways that we can understand. Even better, I mean, it's fantastic the way it supports our everyday functions. It's quite interesting that about 30 years ago, I'm letting go my age here, I remember reading a book, and it was saying that the next level of our industrialization is going to be customization. And we're seeing these capabilities being enabled through AI, as instead of having one blanket message, you can now customize your messages, your services, and even your products based on individual client needs. And this is only going to be becoming more and more widespread and commonplace, where we're not going to settle for the exact same thing as someone else, because we have different needs. So one of the biggest trends we are seeing now is the AI influence on almost everything. And then we're going to see more mass customization, more targeted approach, which has a good and bad result. I was in a marketing call the other day, and they were talking about, the AI marketing tools, where instead of having these clicks on your computer, it's able to track what you're looking at, what you're interested in, and the profile it's able to create of you would be even more profound than what's available today, which has its good points, but I still see the very bad points of it. That level of privacy invasion for me does not feel like something I'm willing to put up with yet. But there are others who don't have these concerns. So for sure, AI is one, and then the other big thing, especially in construction and also real estate, is digital twins. And we're seeing more and more of this happening because digital twins are now helping them sell truth. And I'll speak a bit more about that later on.
This is an interesting part of our conversation. Let's talk about digital twins. How is
Okay.
this solution transforming the way businesses operate, especially in terms of efficiency and innovation?
Well, this is great because what digital twins are really offering companies are a way to um, first you can strategize and you can test a concept on a digital twin before investing a lot more capital time of doing it in real life. So, for instance, if you're building a new tower with a digital twin, you can do so many tests to that tower before you start even constructing. One industry that's been using digital twin for quite some time now is the automobile industry. Even more specific, the racing cars. These cars, the simulations that they're able to undergo using the twins before they even start creating a single physical piece, it's remarkable. And not only that, they're able to gauge the efficiencies small changes can make. It would be really hard to do this in real life, from a little shape of a fender or another part of the vehicle, how much this will save in drag, fuel consumption, or other metrics that are important to them. So we're seeing with digital twins, we're able to get useful metrics, gauge them in a real world situation, simulate them, and also get information back. Now, this data didn't just appear from anywhere because a lot of twins are running on real world data and it's collating this information and learning from this information. So, that is one use of a digital twin. Now, you have this again, it's like BIM, you have this great, rich environment. You can now use it as a communication tool. I mean, we use digital twins every day and don't even realize. Google Maps, it's a twin of the road congestion. It is showing us the process of us getting from A to B real time because it's showing us how many vehicles are on the road. The only way this gets better is by changing the visualization aspect of it because we all know that even Google Maps have its inefficiencies. Sometimes it doesn't tell us the correct lane we're in because it only gives that much information. So as twins get better, the way it communicates to us becomes more effective, and the decision making from this becomes even better. So sales and marketing, especially in things like real estate, are really going to see a lot of benefits from digital twins. Stakeholder engagements for large events. Imagine being able to explore a venue or even a new company that you're starting or doing safety familiarization exercises before you start the job. So when you get on the ground, it's as if you've already been there, and it reduces that time taken to move around the office or even be familiar with safety requirements. So we're seeing twins really growing in their capabilities, and more individuals are now tapping into the possibilities of using twins and not just have them collating information and sitting on the shelf.
Those technologies, they are breathtaking. It's
Yes, they are.
so incredible to live in the times where they are developing so fast and we are a part of this development. So it becomes really exciting to see what is possible and to live our dream in a way and see it landing in reality as well.
For sure, for sure.
It is amazing. And oftentimes, exactly as you mentioned, we are using those solutions without even knowing the name or how exactly it works, but still we are enjoying it a lot and it creates such an experience.
Yes, it does.
Let's talk about businesses and their growth and how can they stay ahead of the curve in adopting these new big data visualization technologies. How can they do it?
Okay, so this is a very good question, and the first thing starts with strategy, and I cannot begin to emphasize how important strategy is. Do not go into any development with a tech first mentality unless you have a lot of R&D spend. This, if you have a lot of R&D spend, it's a completely different approach, which for sure some companies can afford. But for the vast majority of companies, sit down first and put some strategies in place. What is it that you really want to achieve? Who is it for? Let's start with the end user and bring them to the front of the conversation, because there are too many companies who make decisions, and then the people who are actually doing the things are the last to be informed. And many times the implementation does not meet the requirements of the people using it, and we wonder why the system did not live up to expectations. So I would say let's start at the very beginning. Begin with the end in mind. Who is going to use this implementation, and let's put a strategy around it. Goals. What is it that it must achieve? If we can't measure it, we can't grow it, we can't make it better. So we need to put in KPIs and goals. We need to be able to track it and make sure that the outcomes is what's required. And then we need to have some room for error. It's not going to work right the first time. If we go in with the mindset it's going to work right away, it may. We may get lucky, but we need to remember that no system ever started without problems. And these are the opportunities to learn and grow from. They're not failures, they're not the end of the conversation. It's actually good when you find a failure, because then you can learn and understand, okay, what happened here and how can we prevent it from happening further down the line. So it's actually good to have these pause points. No, notice I said pause and not stopping. So embrace failures, and don't be afraid to have a failure. Look at it, grow from it, and move forward. When it comes to the technology, speak to the people already in the field. I've seen too many times where we have these instant experts, and you're hearing them speak about the tech, and I'm like, I really wish you did your homework. That makes no sense. But to those people who are not initiated, they follow it like, oh wow, that's great. That makes perfect sense. And then they try to implement it, and it fails to meet expectations. This happens because they're not really speaking to the individuals who already been there, working on it for some time, understand the pitfalls, and can actually help turn their strategy into a success. So engage with people who are experts in the fields. Don't be afraid to reach out to them. Sometimes it could be a simple question, it could be a networking event, but I would say engage the experts. It's not always the best to try and be an expert in emerging technology because it changes so rapidly. So this would be some of my advice for companies.
That part is actually super valuable. And I see that that is the underwater stone from time to time. And actually, why not to ask others who have been there and gone through that? But the volume of those changes and all those challenges, it becomes just too much.
Mhm.
And it becomes so overwhelming. I see how leaders get overwhelmed. They have no time to take those steps to connect to others, to lift up certain crucial strategic questions which should be highlighted before they jump on board and start implementing and taking in all those solutions. But that's a big problem which is coming along with the development of technologies,
It is.
that humans, leaders, and experts, those who are a part of this digital transformation, they have no capacity from the human perspective to support the pace of development.
Yes, yes. This is very true, because they also have their regular jobs and their regular lives to keep up with. So you're very true with this.
Exactly. So true.
Mhm.
Tell us, what does it take to create impactful, high fidelity visualizations that drive actionable insights? Because
So
insights is everything.
correct, correct. So the first thing here, yes, strategy is important. So we know strategy is important. the quality of your data is also very important. As you probably heard so many times, in crap in, crap out. If you have bad data, you will not get the right information. You will not get the impact you're looking for. Also, you need to be able to tap into the correct team. If you're making a whole city, you want to have a team who can not only capture the again the high fidelity, who cannot create that visualization, but you also need the technical team who can then take that data and impregnate it into that city and bring something amazing to life. So I mean, you need a team that knows what they're doing. I would always say, at the beginning, you can always start with guys playing around and filling out what they have to do. But when it comes to high fidelity, you need the people with experience, you need a track record, and you need to have that good data and the strategy to know what they will implement. So it sounds it sounds a bit mean me saying this, but if you really want something to look good, you need to speak to the people who can make it look good. And if you want it to be correctly implemented, you need to have the team on board that can get that information and make sure that it demonstrates what you need to demonstrate. Um, or else, what you're going to be showing is something that might look good, but it might not be accurate, or the other way around. So, this is why having that experience is super important.
Brilliant. And to wrap up this
Mhm.
fantastic conversation, what is one piece of advice you'd like to share with leaders today from the perspective of a business owner?
One advice: it's not easy. I mean, um, uh, especially keeping up with technology, it's not easy. I sometimes spend very long hours just following up on one stream of implementation, or one piece of technology, and then you need to take it back into the rest of the concert and see how it supports everything else, or what may be missing, or how does the human element sits into this. There's so many times where, I mean, you feel a bit overwhelmed. Like in a given week, you have new technology launching, robotics, and this and that, and it's just getting back to your center, and looking at those goals once again. Like, okay, why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? How do I plan to do it? So yeah, it gets overwhelming. Next week there'll be a Chat GPT-5. There will be something else from Google. There will be more news from Tesla with their robots. But look at your core, look at your goals, look at your KPIs. Don't get too overwhelmed with all the information. If you do get overwhelmed, speak to people who are in the industry already. Ask them, what have you done? uh, where do you think I should be looking at? Don't be afraid to ask for advice, because sometimes we kind of get siloed, but it's always good to collaborate and reach out into the different industry experts out there. Okay, so this would be the advice that I'd offer different business leaders. I know it's not easy. I am here, and it's always good to be able to speak to others and share knowledge.
I love your advice, and I totally agree that it is important to communicate and to get that extra piece of inspiration, information, latest updates, and probably even just a different dimension you will get through somebody else's perception of the same situation.
That's true. That's very true. Yes.
It is so important. Thank you so much for being here today, Harold, and sharing all your insights. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. This was a very good conversation. I look forward to doing more of them.
So do I. Thank you for joining us on Digital Transformation for Humans. I'm Amy, and it was enriching to share this time with you. Remember, the core of any transformation lies in our human nature, how we think, feel, and connect with others. It is about enhancing our emotional intelligence, embracing a winning mindset, and leading with empathy and insight. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover the latest trends in digital business and explore the human side of technology and leadership. Until next time, keep nurturing your mind, fostering your connections, and leading with heart.